Welcome. So we're calling this presentation, What Does It Take to Live in Community? It's particularly for the change makers amongst us who are maybe starting a community or any kind of community project, be it a community garden or a food co-op. However, it's equally useful for our everyday work and family life. It's really a distillation of things that we've learned working on the Big House project this year. We have been offering a 20-odd hour collaboration skills workshop, and this is very much a broad brush view of the kind of skills. It gives an idea of bases to cover, places to focus research and learning and upskilling. So we're going to cover it in 5 parts.
At the end of the slides, there is one telling you where you can contact us if you have questions, so be free to do that and we will be glad to answer them.
Okay, so let's get right into it. For part 1, we talk about vision development, and we get this model from Simon Sinek. And when we talk about vision, different organizations use the term mission, vision, and purpose. It doesn't matter much what you call it, I think, so long as you consider these 3 dimensions. Like, what is it you want to do? What does it look like? What would it look like when you've made it? How do you want to get there? And lastly, why? Why? I say lastly, but in a way, it's kind of where you should start. It's like, what's the driving value?
One driving value is what we learned from science, that the human race is a race that really needs deep connection to feel safe, to be able to thrive. These are Stephen Porges' research called polyvagal theory, for instance. There are more now coming up. A lot of researchers are going in this direction. Even in the business world, they find out that it is important not only to look at the productivity, but at the humans and the connection of the humans as well.
Yeah, I think it's not so much about convincing others of your vision, but just being very clear about what your vision is and finding others who share it. That's really the key to getting started here. Sometimes you might have a group of people that are already established and it's trying to find a vision. Other times you might just have a person with a vision and trying to find a group around it. It is a chicken and the egg, because developing a vision is challenging work. It involves collective thinking, decision making, solving conflict. It involves all of the group skills that we need once our project is underway, and yet we don't really have the experience yet as a group. There's 2 workarounds for this. One is to get help. If you have a group, to get an external facilitator, someone who isn't invested in the topic, who can just really focus on facilitating you to narrow down what it is that you want to do. The other thing is that there's quite often someone who's a burning soul, or it might be someone or someone's, a small group. In the beginning, just having a small group makes it easier to, like, if you have 10 people and you're trying to sort of find out, distill a vision, it's much harder. If you have 2, it's like, or if you have 1 and you say, this is what my vision is, and then the next person comes and says, okay, I align with it, then you can grow from a sort of solid foundation. Buddhist song and in co-housing, they call this the burning soul. That's kind of the cross to bear of the visionary, the pioneer.
Well, it's important that this visionary group is not too big, because otherwise you get too many different opinions and it's difficult to agree then on one vision. That's what they found out in Germany. Just keep this core group small, up to maybe 12 to 15 people, but not more.
I would say the burning souls might be only 2 or 3. In a way, if you have a vision and if you want a reality check, find one other person who kind of sort of aligns with it and says, yes, it makes sense, it's what I want.
Earth Song, Peter told me that they had quite big group at the beginning, and then they couldn't find how it's going on. And out of this big group, separated at least 3 groups, 3 different, one Earth Song. There, one member said, I just want to live in the town. I want to have something in the town with permaculture and. That's making that a little bit more concrete. Then a small group focused on that. And that's how it was built.
What you want to do, your vision is agreed, everyone's bought into it, and it's written down in positive terms. What you do want is much more interesting than what you don't want. If you have this clear purpose and it's clear, then it enables all of your group and all new members who join it to pull in the same direction. Dale Hunter warns us that it can take time to develop. We have grown up in a world where the agenda and the vision has been driven by other people. So what we want and what we dream about is sometimes takes a little bit of time to crystallize. Just accept that's sometimes part of the journey in young groups. We can't talk about vision without talking about membership. In some ways, who is kind of an even more inner ring from this circles. The people who are members are defining the vision of the project. You do need to know who's a member and who's not a member. People coming and going on groups is hard on groups.
Well, if people come and go, then first new ideas come within, old ideas leave. And the second thing is the newcomers don't know anything about the history. They have to learn the group values, they have to learn the group rules and all of that stuff. And that makes it difficult.
Members have decision-making rights, basically. So you do need to know who's a member, like what is it that qualifies you as a member. And this is different for every group. Two of the things you need to sort of decide there is, are members to be approved by existing members, or are they to be self-selected? If they're to be self-selected, what are the sort of hurdles or thresholds that they need to cross at Earthsong? We had required reading, attendance of a certain amount of meetings to absorb some of the culture, and reading past decisions so that people are not asking questions that have already been decided. The second thing you want to consider is how much commonality do you want, bearing in mind that we need a certain amount of support from others who are aligned with our way of thinking. On the other hand, diversity brings innovation and creativity.
Who is in, who is out? It depends on what kind of project you are trying to achieve. If it's just a neighborhood, then these hurdles can be quite small because you make your own living, you have your own family home, you're just living closer together than it's normal here in New Zealand. But if you want to start also kind of business together or living closer together in like sharing flats or even in a big house like our dream is, then these hurdles have to be a little bit more complicated, a little bit more intense, that both the group and the ones that come in know, yes, this is exactly the right person for us, or this is exactly the right place for me.
Dale Hunter calls this group culture. So you can call this commitments, agreements, values, ground rules. Earthsong, we had a set of communication agreements. These were created early in the group. It just made it clear about how we wanted to work together. Communication was important, the way we communicate. Whatever it is that you feel is important about your group culture, write it down. Do this early on, because if you want to get to the journey, knowing how to get there is important.
Make every member of the group sign this culture, because this signing in is, yes, I really agree to it. And even if it happens that a person steps out of this agreement, then you can remind him or her, oh, you just slipped out. Would you please willing to come back in again? And if they deny coming back in again and turn to other values, then okay, you might say, okay, you signed in, but you're not going to agree to it. How does that work for you? And you can deal with this conflict. Otherwise, new discussion would start about values and how you would deal with conflicts.
So this is an example of what that might look like in writing. Actually, I think this is not all of it, didn't fit on the page. Things like I will use I statements. I will speak succinctly. I think on the end was I will remember to have fun. Dealing with difficult issues with people directly is in there. You can illustrate this in different ways. It doesn't have to be in writing. You can draw pictures on maps. This is from Dale's book.
And you can also use different things in there, not only about communication. Here, for instance, one point is punctuality. Yes, it's important that people come punctually to the meetings because they're using other people's time if they're not on time.
Down the bottom there, all emotions are accepted, not just emotions are okay, but warmly accepted. That's an example of a learning community where they're interested in human development. Vulnerability is recognized as a growth point. Just as a heads up, really, all people within groups often have a spectrum of task-focused people versus process-focused people that can create in some groups an early conflict. There are some people who are very practical, just want to get on with it, and they find discussions around meeting process and communication and so on kind of incidental or irrelevant. On the other spectrum, you've got people who are quite the opposite. So this is a dialogue that you will need to have at some point. Is what's the balance between these two? The answer is, of course, if you need both. And so there is a meeting of minds. The process gets you to your outcome, so it is important. In addition to your vision statement and your group culture statement, most likely a set of other documents are going to be important just to make clear how you want to deal with spending money, meeting procedures, how people come to be a member, how you deal with conflict. I think is something that we're becoming more aware of is important to consider beforehand. We all hope that conflict won't happen and I think in many levels fear conflict, but I think if we at the beginning know that it is going to happen, then we can better prepare and say, okay, this is the kind of tool set we have and want and commit to.
These documents make your vision more clearly. For instance, if you, in your vision is the statement, we deal with conflicts in a positive way. So this positive way could be seen in a wide range of possibilities. So in this additional document about conflict procedures, you specify it, like, for instance, you say, they use NVC, nonviolent communication, to solve conflicts. Or. During the conflict, you don't have to discuss what is a good, positive way to solve a conflict.
Yeah, it just avoids a lot of conflict down the track if you have some agreed procedures about things. It's a little bit of invested energy up front, which really makes the work of building projects easier. If you want more information, you can look on our website. We're really looking for people that resonate with these ideas. In that sense, it's not really just about, for us, the Big House is a metaphor for this idea of connection and collaboration, innovation. We are one planet, one people, and we are more than happy to support other projects and generally connect with people who resonate with this message. Thanks for joining us. Do you have something you want to say, Sula?
Yeah, just say bye, and I'm looking forward to hear something from you, and have a good time. Bye.